It's got 402 horsepower, 223 miles of estimated range of its 75 kilowatt hour battery. This is the 2022 Volvo XC40 Recharge, 0 to 60 in as fast as 4.7 seconds. Let's test what Volvo actually has. There we go. I feel like it gives you that full power at like 35 miles an hour, 0 to 60. 4.56. Now you can charge this 75 kilowatt hour battery on a DC quick charger 10 to 80% in about 37 minutes. Luckily they include a level 1 like trickle charger, so I could plug it in my garage. I got this vehicle with like 14% and it took about 3 to 4 days to fill this bad boy up to 100%. So I'll give you guys my estimated range by the end of this video, but let's get into the exterior design. My gosh, this thing is gorgeous. Why? Because it's no different than the normal XC40. But there are a few different design differences. Now the grille is the biggest difference. We have very little ventilation going here. It's prioritizing aerodynamics with this hard piece of plastic here. Now there is a 2023 refresh, and it really just makes this part of the vehicle look a little bit more like the C40, which is the same thing as this vehicle. It's just kind of like that coupe fastback version of it. The daytime running lights, the Thor Hammer headlights are a little bit different in that refresh, as well as the fog lights at the bottom, but really the majority of the vehicle is identical. The wheels might be a little bit different on that 2023. We have awesome 20-inch wheels here on sticky Pirelli tires. I love this fjord blue color. It is absolutely stunning, and of course matches the ocean and the blue sky that we have next to us. Man, I love the classic Volvo taillights. You might say, Kirk, it looks a little Honda CR-V. Well, you guys can make that argument, but they share very similar cool D-pillar taillights. Looks awesome. Volvo stamped out there on the tailgate. We have twin charge right here, or recharge twin. It does come in 3 different trim levels. This is of course the highest trim level, coming in just under 60K. Lots of cargo space on the inside. You can lift this up, you have a jack, and then you have some charging cables. The charging cable is still in my garage. This one will allow you to adapt it to a much more potent plug-in system. 250 volt it says on that bad boy. We're gonna close this down. We'll get in the back seat real quick. And what's cool about this vehicle is that the mid trim and the highest trim have this electronically folding headrest. You can also fold them down from the screen on the inside. Sitting in the back row, the seat is set up for me at 6'1". Hard touch here, but I do have a decent amount of leg room. We have this drivetrain hump here, and typically in a normal XC40, the drive shaft would go in here, but in this XC40, batteries underneath here. They're also underneath the seat, so they have this T-shaped battery cell design, just a modified version of the current XC40 platform. We have heated outboard seats back here, 2 USB-C chargers. Thankfully we have some vents as well, and a gorgeous panel roof. I love this material of headliner. It just feels really good, very minimal as well. And don't forget the fuzzy inside of the doors. I love that. As we get on the inside, Harman Kardon sound system is one of the better Harman Kardons I've heard in a vehicle. Of course, we have that fuzzy interior of the door here. This unique dotted pattern here only on the XC40 Recharge. We also have it on the dash over there. Awesome minimalist seat. We kind of have this suede on the inside, vegan leather on the outside. I love how Volvo includes extending thigh cushions in their vehicles and just makes it a lot better for taller people. Volvo steering wheel, excellent. Let's go ahead and sit on the inside. The vehicle automatically starts up when you get in the vehicle. I want that AC to get going. I can feel it going. I love how the car doesn't have a start button. It just automatically recognizes when you're in, when you're out. We have a big MID behind the steering wheel. On the left-hand side, we have the speedometer, and then we also have digital Google Maps built in on this vehicle, just like the Polestar 2. This vehicle is very much like the Polestar 2 because they use the same Google Automotive software. So I essentially have Google Maps and Google Assistant built into this car. If I need to find quick chargers, I just press that button. They automatically load. If I want to go somewhere else, take me to the nearest Starbucks. And I'm not doing anything. All right. I'm not doing anything to speed up or slow down the editing here, so this is all real time for you guys. It also tells you what your battery charge will be when you get there, 7 minutes away. So Rest in peace, Android Auto. You don't really need it since it's built in. Also, I just updated this car, which gives me Apple CarPlay. That wasn't a feature before the update. And while I was updating the car, it wouldn't let me even get in the car. So I waited about an hour. It let me get in the car. I was happy that the vehicle wasn't bricked. Climate control. There are no physical controls for climate control. I'm okay with that because the system's really easy to use. I can increase the fan speed. I can just put it on auto. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it, but just leaving it on auto works really well for me. You also have heated seats, no ventilated seats. Unfortunately, we also have a heated steering wheel on the top of the line grade. 360 camera on this is really good, as you would expect. It just does a great job guiding you into the places you need to get into. Very minimalist shifter. I think they might include a crystal shifter on the 2023. I'll have to look that up. We have a wireless charger here, 2 USB-Cs. So if you're going to be plugging in Apple CarPlay, make sure you have a USB-C to Lightning, because otherwise it's not going to work. We actually have a volume dial here, has pretty good resistance to it, nice little clicky noise. You can play and pause. Like, I rarely press these buttons, but it's great to have that volume knob there. To close this massive sunroof, you swipe forward your finger, and if I wanted to, I can open the sunroof. A lot of these glass roofs on these electric cars don't have an opening roof, so thanks Volvo for actually including that open roof lifestyle. We're actually going to have top-line safety features in this model. Radar cruise control will also have lane guiding assistance or lane tracing. That's something I didn't have in the Polestar 2, at least in the trim level of the Polestar 2. Look at all those sensors telling me the door's open. I don't have a seatbelt on. The hood is open. We're going to look at the front of this vehicle. Yes, we have a front. Look how basic and bare this is. Open this up and just a little port partition here, and there is your fix-a-flat kit underneath. Remember, the jack is on the back underneath the rear cargo floor. Driving the Volvo XC40 Recharge, it would have been nice if I actually had I do have a tilted and telescopic steering wheel, but it's manual with a lever. So that would have been nice for around $60K to just have an electronic memory-based steering wheel system. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that. We're just gonna roll onto the throttle here. Can't say gas because it is whisper quiet electric. Torquey is you know what. This vehicle just feels so good. The ride in it is nice and compliant. Since it's a Volvo, it still has a bit of a sporty side to it. When you sling it around the roundabout here, I'm gonna come to a complete stop because this roundabout's always sketchy. And yes, he stopped in the roundabout, so that just proves review. Every time I come to this roundabout, there's either people standing in it, or cars coming to a stop, or cars parking in the roundabout. This is another situation altogether, with a FedEx truck coming to a stop because he has to wait at the gate to get inside, you know, those high-rise $1 million+ condos on the beach. And that's like, I feel like this vehicle would be perfect for people who just live and drive around town. No, it doesn't have the most range out there. And in fact, like the EV6 I drove yesterday has like 80 more miles of range, best case scenario, right? Like, it's apples to oranges in that regard. But I feel like once you're over 200 miles of range and you never leave town, and if you do, you have a different car for that, based off of gasoline or diesel. And if you do leave town, you're not driving, guess what? You're probably on a plane. So I think 150 to 200 miles of fully electric range is really what anyone probably needs in their electric car. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but I feel like that's the majority. I have been driving this vehicle with one pedal driving. It's just a simple thing. You get into the menu here with this cog and you just click driving. There's also an off-road mode here, which I'm not going to test, but yes, one pedal drive. I can just turn it off and on. You can also change the stiffness of the steering wheel, which I of course like it as stiff as possible. And just getting off the pedal here, this one pedal driving is, for me, significantly superior to the Kia EV6 that I just got out of. The one pedal driving that vehicle was only usable for me when I was in the eco mode, but in eco mode you don't get the full fat horsepower in that. So for me, this gives you the full fat horsepower and a very substantial regen brake feeling that you just get a lot of feedback through the pedal. There's a lot of progression, a good amount of resistance in that gas pedal or accelerator pedal, whatever you want to call it. It's a great one pedal driving experience, and it's just as good as probably the Polestar 2, where that vehicle was the best that I had driven at that time. And this of course matches it because it is essentially a crossover version of that car. Now that car gets a little bit better fuel economy. Its cornering is just a little bit better. I do feel a little bit higher up in this vehicle, of course. I'm totally off the pedal right now, and I'm gonna have to use the brake just a tad, but it's very predictable, very easy to get along with this one pedal driving. I love that there are just so many more options on the road for electric cars. Now the XC40 is not anything new for Volvo. It's been on the market for a couple years, which seems like a lifetime for electric cars right now, because just new ones are coming out from every manufacturer seemingly like every month. But this XC40 looks so good. It looks no different unless you have a trained eye versus the normal XC40, and I love the looks of the XC40. It's one of my favorite looking vehicles on the market, regardless of price range and regardless of even body type. I just love the package that the XC40 is, and it's awesome that Volvo includes a fully electric variant of it. And hell, it has over 400 horsepower, which is just silly in this compact crossover. Volvo wants to be fully electric by 2030, something that Lexus is going to be doing as well. They also want to have like 50% of their vehicles in America to be electric by 2050. And then by 2025, they're going to be unveiling a new electric vehicle every single year. So that is going to be crazy. Of course, this one started all off. Then we got the C40, which is pretty much this car with a fastback on it. We're getting the Embla, which is the estimate for the replacement for the XC90, or the electric version of the XC90 that's going to be built alongside the Polestar 2 in South Carolina. Something that this vehicle doesn't have is a head-up display, but I'm perfectly fine without it. And that's just a personal taste. Sometimes head-up displays, if they're not done perfectly, they can give me like this holographic effect that is hard for me to focus on and is actually distracting. So I like this setup here because it gives me all the information I need. It's crystal clear, and I also love that the maps is essentially inlaid into my MID. I rarely ever have to look at this one over here. This is just kind of like accessory. It's great. Now Volvo has fallen into the pitfalls of glossy black plastic. I have a ton around the shifter, I have a ton around the screen. I haven't been blinded yet, so I don't know if that's just based off of the angles they've put this shiny black plastic, but I can see dust everywhere. This screen in the middle gets a ton of fingerprints, as you guys have probably already seen. So it's not perfect, but I do love the overall design of the vehicle, and the materials overall are fantastic. And we're just gonna go full beans here. Geez, there's 60. Okay, like it is just, it feels a lot faster than the EV6 that I drove yesterday. Now it has a lot more torque and it has a lot more horsepower, about 100 more horsepower than the EV6, and that car still feels really, really fast, faster than I need on the street. And this is just on a whole nother level, just like that Polestar 2 was, which is the exact same powertrain. I think that the horsepower numbers are off like 5 or 6 horsepower versus the Polestar 2. No one's ever going to be able to feel the difference. Going about 50 miles an hour, smooth as butter in this vehicle. You feel no vibrations from a powertrain. You don't feel much from the road, even though you have these large 20-inch wheels. I'm going to hit this pothole here. Did really, really well. It's definitely on the firmer side. I didn't feel or hear any major rattles going on in the car hitting that. And like the XC90 that I drove, that suspension is awfully harsh. Don't have any of that going on here in this XC40 Recharge. That one pedal driving, just very predictable, very easy to use, super smooth. And it makes me never want to go back, unless I'm driving a manual transmission or something, it makes me not really want to go back to 2-pedal driving. Driving out here on the freeway, I got a little bit of noise coming from the windows. I have the radar cruise control set. There's also the driving assist on, and it just feels like it's handling. I mean, the road is going straight. There is a bit of a turn up here, so we'll see how it does there. But it does a great job, of course, maintaining distance, and I can modify that distance. I have at the lowest distance right now behind this semi truck. You know, just might as well do some drafting, maximize our you know, fuel economy, energy efficiency here behind this big semi truck. I want to see how it does over this bridge with this crazy lines, and it turning a little bit to the left. It seems to be doing it no problem, just fine. Very smooth, as I would expect, but it's good. Oh, it wants me to hold the steering wheel, but it's doing the rest of it really, really well here, and I have the utmost confidence in this at highway speeds, as long as nothing crazy is going on. Of course, you gotta make sure you're watching the road so it doesn't do anything dumb. The semi got over to the side. It's accelerating back to 70 mile an hour here, and super smooth. It didn't do it very fast or aggressively. It just rolled onto the accelerator and got us very simply and easily back up to 70 miles an hour. Currently, our fuel consumption at 70 miles an hour is 40 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So you can imagine with a 75 kilowatt hour battery, you're not going to make it probably much more than 200 miles with this sort of consumption, at least on the highway. So I think Car and Driver did a study where they took it and got 180 miles going at 75 miles an hour, and that sounds about right. And turning off the cruise control, it did it beautifully. Even though I have the one pedal driving on, it very slowly came to a deceleration, if that makes sense. And the EV6, when I turned off the radar cruise control, when I had the iPedal on, it just immediately gave you the full beans of deceleration. It's essentially like slamming on the brakes. So in order to mitigate that, I had to put my foot on the accelerator before I turned off the cruise control. So Volvo has done a great job smoothing out this system when it comes to the radar cruise control, as well as when you come to a stop. So not only is the iPedal excellent, which I mentioned, or it can't say iPedal, that was the EV6. The one pedal driving in here, excellent, like I mentioned already. When you come to a stop, it very easily and smoothly progresses you to a stop. There's no like harsh slamming on the brakes feeling with this one pedal driving here. Volvo and Polestar have it nailed down. So I'm sitting here. It actually doesn't seem as quiet as the EV6 at a stop. That had acoustic glass on the side and the front windshield. I don't believe this has that same sort of acoustic glass treatment. I don't think it's quite as quiet as the EV6 that I drove yesterday. There we go. I feel like it gives you that full power at like 35 miles an hour. 0 to 60, 4.56. That is scorching fast. No one would ever expect that from a little XC40. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That's about a half second faster than I was able to get in the EV6 yesterday. Like, this thing, you can feel the 235 with tires kind of struggling a little bit, you know, for traction, and even in better conditions, you might be able to get like a stickier tarmac and on a drag strip, you might even be able to get under 4.5. So there you go. Volvo has faster 0 to 60 numbers than what they advertise on this XC40 twin motor recharge. We don't get a front wheel drive version of this here in the United States, even though I think it would be adequate. I think 200 horsepower on this vehicle with 240 pound-feet of torque or so would be excellent. Oh, do we have an Ioniq 5 here? I think we do. I'm going to speed up, which is no problem, obviously, in this vehicle to speed up. Now we have a little Ioniq 5 action. He probably has no idea we're in an XC40 like electric vehicle, and we would dust this guy. Oh, it's a chick. She probably doesn't, I mean, I'm not going to be racing anyone, but that's the thing about this XC40. No one's going to expect you guys to just be able to leave them completely in the dust. It's a totally electric sleeper, kind of that Polestar 2 was as well, but you know, that since that vehicle has that 5-door lift-back design, it's a little bit more aggressive. But this thing, no one's ever going to expect you to pull 0 to 60 that fast on them. It's just so hilarious and just makes me smile ear to ear. Not that many cars do that. Okay, we got some traffic coming up quick here, and we're gonna do a U-turn and just roll on that gas. It's so ridiculously quick. Oh, it makes me so happy, and it just does it so effortlessly. I don't get like nauseous or anything. It's just boom, such a smooth progression and power delivery in this vehicle. And I think it's time for me to end this review, summarize this vehicle. Who is this XC40 Recharge for? Well, It's for someone who absolutely loves the look of this vehicle. That would be me included. It's someone who loves the Volvo aesthetic and design inside and out. It's someone who loves this Google Automotive, that is me. It's essentially me playing with my Google Pixel phone, but it's the car. So there's so many things about this vehicle that just makes me happy. The only thing that really is tough to live with versus the competition and its price point is its limitation in range. Around 220 miles of range, that's mixed. If you're going 75 miles on the freeway, it might be less than 200 miles. So that's the Achilles heel of this vehicle. But like I said at the beginning, when I started driving this vehicle, if you never leave town, or you rarely do, you don't travel that much outside of your house and your local errands, this range is going to be more than enough. If you do most of your traveling outside of your city by a different vehicle that uses gasoline or diesel, then this would be perfect. And if you're doing most of your traveling outside of your city by an airplane, then this vehicle also makes tons of sense. And that, I just probably summarized the majority of people in the United States where this vehicle would work for, assuming you can fork over 55 to 60K and this 400 horsepower XC40 compact pocket rocket. Volvo still gets the $7,500 tax credit, like the Kia EV6 did that I drove yesterday. This vehicle is phenomenal. I need to get myself out of it because I feel like I'm praising it too much. There's just very little in here for me to gripe on, and that means this Volvo is fantastic. I have a big soft spot for Volvos because they do design so well and they get all the major things done. Like the driving dynamics in this vehicle, I cannot complain, from the one pedal driving to the safety features in here, as well as just the power delivery and the smoothness of everything in this car is done to an A+ level. So anyways, Volvo, I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing in the future. You are doing excellent right now with your electric cars, converting them into, well, your gasoline cars converted into electric vehicles with the C40 and the XC40. I can't imagine how good your electric cars are going to be on a full battery electric platform. Man, I'm excited. Anyways, I got in this video here. What are your questions about the XC40 Recharge? I'll see you in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe for more Volvo and Polestar news updates. They're really the only automakers I cover outside the Japanese and Korean cars, just by guilty pleasure. These vehicles look great, they're designed great. This vehicle, I don't think I mentioned, is built in Ghent, Belgium, where they build a ton of XC40s. They send them here to the United States, but a lot of Volvos in the future are going to be built here right in the US of A, so that's pretty exciting as well. But I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys. But anyways, I'm going to cut myself off for the 10th time. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves and the people around you, and peace out.